Open script and I'ma read it right. Study to show thyself approved. You got to read it right. Everyday hell, I'm just trying to show eternal life. I'm just trying to show eternal life. This burning all at midnight. Who shall teach knowledge, make them understand doctrine? Who shall teach knowledge, make them understand doctrine? Who shall teach knowledge, make them understand doctrine? Line upon line, line upon line. Who shall teach knowledge, make them understand doctrine? Who shall teach knowledge, make them understand doctrine? Who shall teach knowledge, make them understand doctrine? Line upon line, make them understand doctrine. Open script and I'ma read it right.
You good? You starting? Oh. Peace, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Burning Midnight Oil. Special due to the fact that we were on Friday night or the Friday before that, and so I do apologies. But I had this one prepared, and I felt it kind of important, or I don't know, maybe I just didn't want to get behind, or I don't know, we just missed the night. I just didn't want to not do this one. Today's title is Witchcraft and Idolatry, the Devil Has Tricked You. So what today's subject and topic that we're going to deal with here at Burning Midnight Oil, it's real simple. We're going to go through the Bible, give you 12 scriptures relating to, what the Bible shows us and teach us about witchcraft, idolatry, things of that stuff that we commonly see or recognize in our society, and maybe we don't know that the origin of these things take you back to the Bible and to take you back to paganism. Paganism is a word that represents the worship of multiple gods, and a lot of things that we do in our culture, from our holidays, like how we just had Halloween, Easter, Christmas, all these things. They're gods that's represented with it, but not the God of the Bible. And so it makes it pagan. And it deals with rituals that include idolatry in it. You know what I mean? The whole practice of it. So at any rate, we're gonna go ahead and get into the Bible. Witchcraft and idolatry, the devil has tricked you. On a side note, Job chapter 12 and 16 says that the deceived and the deceiver, they all belong to the Lord. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and read that real quick. Job chapter 12, verse 16. I'm going to read that one. And it says, with him is strength and wisdom. The deceived and the deceiver are his. And it's talking about the Lord. And I just look at that verse, and it just lets me know, like when you read Revelation 12:9, like the whole world done been deceived. And ultimately, Satan is behind it, and you don't really know it. But at the end of the day, God knows. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Bible says that God made the wicked for the day of destruction. So, it's amazing, but at the end of the day, everybody not going to understand, like, when you do Sunday and you worship that, or when you worship Christmas and these things really are evil to God, abominable to God. Like, it has biblically zero. And so we're going to look at some of this stuff. So we're going to go ahead and start this off in Deuteronomy chapter 18. Deuteronomy chapter 18. And, my suggestion is grab your pen, your paper, your Bible, take notes always. and learn, because these things will help you obtain your salvation. Understanding the Bible. But I was talking to a brother today, and he was like, man, he was like, those that hear and understand the word, like that's the good ground. And that's what you trying to be. You trying to be somebody that hear the word and understand the word. And the fruit of you understanding the word will be you keeping the commandments. Those that's not keeping the commandments, they don't have an understanding of the word of God. They might can talk it, but they don't have an understanding of the word of God. Anyway, Deuteronomy chapter 18, and this is where we're going to start at verse 1 through 7. When you get there, go ahead and read.
The priests, the Levites, and all the tribe of Levi shall have no part nor inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the offering of the Lord made by fire, and his inheritance.
So when we look at this verse right here, what we're leading to right now is that God, when he set up the children of Israel coming out of Egypt, and he was setting up the nation of priests, he was like, the Levites, they not going to get land. They the priest. So when you need to come to God, the Levites are supposed to be the way you get there. Well, go ahead.
Therefore shall they have no inheritance among their brethren. The Lord is their inheritance, and he hath said unto them. And this shall be the priest's due from the people, from them that offer a sacrifice, whether it be ox or sheep. And they,
verse 5.
For the Lord thy God hath chosen him out of all thy tribes, to stand to minister in the name of the Lord, him and his sons forever.
Right, so he's saying, like, when God set up the Bible, he set it up where it was no question, or when he set up a nation, it was no question on who is the author of what God is telling us to do. Okay? But go ahead, keep reading.
And if a Levite come from any of thy gates out of all Israel, where he sojourned, and came with all the desire of his mind unto the place which the Lord shall choose, then he shall minister in the name of the Lord his God, as all his brethren the Levites do, which stand there before the Lord.
So again, we just opened up with that because the Levites, God set it up with a between him and mankind, where it's the Levites, and they perform the church duties. They perform all the God, and what we getting somewhere with this. So let's keep reading. Let's jump down to verse 9.
When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you any one that marketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter.
Right, so he's saying this is the law here. So the Lord is telling them, look, when you get into this land or whatever, these things are abominations to him, though. He says, when thou art coming to the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone that make his son or daughter to pass through the fire, or that uses divinations. And a divination is the practice of seeking knowledge of the future or unknown by the supernatural. So look, he said, you're not supposed to go to the supernatural to seek the future. That's why, like, in the same chapter, he had the priests. Because really, you're going to go to God to find out your future. And that's what divination is about. And so he said, there should not be found among you one to make a son or daughter to pass through the fire, or that uses divination, or observer or time, or an enchanter, or a witch. Now, I want us to look at something else here too, and this is astrology, because astrology is the observance of time. So I'm in Encyclopedia Britannica. I'm in the A Britannica, and I'm looking at what year is this? This is copywritten, volume 1. The last copyright on here is 1993. Yep, this is copywritten in 1993, and we're on page 654. Astrology, a type of divination, and remember we said divination is for you to go to the supernatural for your answers on the future, that consists in interpreting the influence of planets and stars on earthly affairs. So It's saying this is they saying you can look at the planets and stars and determine earthly affairs. Okay. And what we looking at when we start talking about astrology and observance of times, we talking about like yo Virgos and Leos. You heard of that before, right? Do you know what your birth sign is? Like you know what you are?
Bro, I don't
I know, right? Ain't that special? When I say that's special, because I grew up in a day where everybody knew. You know what I'm saying? It was like a part of your birthday to say like my birthday is whatever. I'm a this. I remember my grandma had an Aries shirt. You know what I'm saying? And we thought that was cool. It was her favorite color, purple, right? But that whole astrology and dealing with the signs or whatever. Let's look at some more and see what it says. Astrology originated in the Mesopotamian, perhaps in the 3rd millennium BC, but attained its full development in the Western world much later within the orbit of Greek civilization of the Hellenistic period. It spread to India in its older Mesopotamian form. Islamic culture absorbed it as a part of the Greek heritage. And in the Middle Ages, when Western Europe was strongly affected by Islamic science, European astrology also felt the influence of the Orient. And that's something too. When you get to reading a lot of history, you find that a lot of the Greek culture moved into what we have today. Really, you know what I'm saying. That's why in our studies, our school education system, we learn about people like Socrates and Plato's and Aristotle's. We learn about the Greek philosophers because their philosophies have been imparted on our society. That's why when you go to schools, we got Greek fraternities. But just because these philosophies exist don't make them right. The way that they operated, the way that the Greeks operated was not biblical in God's eye. Okay? Anyway, the Egyptians also contributed through less directly to the rise of astrology. They constructed a calendar containing 12 months of 30 days each, with 5 days added at the end of the year. That was subsequently taken over by the Greeks as a standard of reference for astronomical observance in order that the star sky might serve them as a clock. So they was like this all started off as a way of telling time, and through the process of time, they started, incorporating the gods, and when the Greeks got it, really. So here's another paragraph, and it's a lot to read on. I'm not going to read everything on it. A couple of key things we see here: that astrology started down in Egypt. Like when you start in Greek and Egypt, and like when you start looking at what's right and wrong, and because a lot of people really feed into the astrology, and it's really stupid to me because, I know I share a birthday with people. I know 2 people I share a birthday with, one living, one dead. And our characters, all 3 of us, not even the same, Greek astrology was slow to be absorbed by the Romans, who had their own native methods of divination. So they had their own ways of doing it, but the Greeks just took over. But by the time of Augusta, the art had resumed its original role as a royal prerogative. Attempts to stem its influence on the so basically, long story short, though, astrology came into play throughout pagan antiquity. The words astronomy and astrology have been synonymous in the first. So they were saying astronomy and astrology at first. The study of the stars was all the same thing at first, and then it kind of separated with the origin of Christianity. Really, if you keep reading and do some homework. So, but at any rate. Long story short, just a little bit of information on astrology and where it came from, and that's what the observance of time is, and that's what your divination. Well, your divinations again is you going the practice of seeking knowledge of the future by unknown, by the supernatural. Whether you messing with a Ouija board or you doing the palm reading, all that kind of stuff. Anything that's telling you the future that's not biblical would be probably divinations or observance of time or an enchanter or a witch. So read the verse 10 again. We back in Deuteronomy. Go ahead.
There shall not be found among you anyone that marketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch.
Right. So, and when you start talking about an enchanter or a witch, enchanters, they casting their spells, they basically trying to speak into or deal with the spiritual world. And that's the thing. Satan got devils out here, so it's not beyond the realm of possibility that these people have skill, and that's the whole thing. That there may be skill involved with verse 11.
Or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits,
Yeah.
or a wizard, or a necromancer.
Right. So all the witchcraft and Harry Potterness that you can get out of all of this, he's saying that stuff you're not supposed to deal with them. Now they might have some level of super skill or whatever, it doesn't matter. You're not supposed to deal with them. Well, go ahead, verse 12.
For all that do these things are abominations to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee. Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God.
And the reason we stopped at verse 13 is because, sometimes some people tend to think things don't matter. Like, it's not a big deal. I'm Sagittarius, like whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just got it tatted on my arm or something. Big deal. He's like, look, no, you're supposed to be perfect with the Lord your God. So it is a deal. All right? Let's go to Revelation chapter 18 now. Revelation chapter 18. And again, we're dealing with witchcraft and idolatry. The devil has tricked you. Because, I remember reading somewhere, maybe watching a movie or something, that said the greatest trick that Satan has ever played is making people think that he don't exist. And what I get from that is, like, in our day-to-day actions, you hear a little simple stuff like the devil is a lie or whatever. But when we pay attention to the world, like, nobody, like, recognizes the spirit of Satan is on the scene. You know what I'm saying? That is devils on the scene. Even like when when we get to the Christmas season, like, nobody is ever once equating Santa Claus to Satan. You know what I mean? But the reality is that's where his origin lies too. He come from Satan as well. Satan gave us Santa Claus. Satan gave us the Easter Bunny. Like, it behooves me how we got, like, Easter Bunny and eggs that we hunt for on Easter. But bunnies don't lay eggs. Just little simple stuff. But we're going to get into that a little bit. But Revelation chapter 18, verse 2 and 3. And when you get there, go ahead.
And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird.
Right now, this Bible is telling us that Babylon and this is Babylon where we live, not just America, the whole world. Babylon rule the world. And it's saying that it has become the habitation of every devil and every foul spirit and every cage and unclean and hateful bird. So go ahead, verse 3.
For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication.
And all the nations done drank off of it, just like when we was reading about astrology and we're gonna read some more about some more of the gods that we're gonna look at, right? And it's crazy because, like, it take you back to, like, Egypt and Greek, and then it took you over. If I'd have kept reading, it show you how China and how India, how all these people deal with astrology, the whole world, and that's just on that one simple note. Like, we could keep going, or we gonna see some other things, but we can keep going and showing you how the whole world done took a hold of this deception. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Right. And it's big money making. From Easter suits to Christmas gifts to Halloween candy. Like, it's big money making. To, even when you start talking about the psychics. And I remember Dion Psychic Network. They used to have a phone line when I was growing up, right? And you can call a number, and it was this lady named Dionne Warwick. Mm-hmm. You ever heard of Dionne Warwick? Mm-hmm. Dionne Warwick is a singer, a famous black singer. Mm-hmm. She come around that, she like in the 70s, you know what I'm saying? And I think she got some relation to Whitney Houston, like before she got on. Just before Whitney got on, that, Dionne was doing her thing, right? But at any rate, so when I was a kid, like 8, 9 years old, Dionne Warwick, maybe I was about 12, 11, Dionne Warwick done stopped doing music. Mm-hmm. And she would have commercials. Her and this chick named Cleo. and they would have Dionne Warwick Psychic Network, and you could call the number, and I guess it's like a 1-800 number. You paying for it, and I guess she would tell you your future or something. Dionne Warwick, and it probably wasn't even her. They probably had a whole bunch of people answering the phone. You probably got somebody different every time. But the whole point is, it's just money to be made off of selling the people nothing. Because that's ultimately what you're selling them. You're selling them lies. You're selling them idolatry. You're really selling them what they want. Anyway, let's go to Acts chapter 16. Acts chapter 16. Acts chapter 16. And Israel, like us, black people, man, we done dealt with everything. You know what I mean? Like, Edomites or Jewish, they stick with Judaism. You don't see too many Edomites, they Jewish and they turn Muslim. You know what I'm saying? Same as the Arabs, You don't see they, but Israel, black folks, man, we go deal with every religion. We be Buddhists. We go deal with Taoism. Man, look here, man. We get into the stars. We get into the new science, or whatever. We just get into everything. That's what we do. But anyway, though, Acts chapter 16, and let's pick this up at verse 16. And when you get there, start at verse 11. When you get there, go ahead.
Therefore, losing from Torres, we came with a straight course to Samothrace.
Yeah, man, don't take that much time. Go ahead.
And the next day to
Neapolis.
Yeah, Neapolis. And from thence to
Philippi,
which is the city, which is the chief city of that part of Macedonia, and a colony. And we were in that city abiding certain days.
This Paul and them was, but go ahead.
And on the Sabbath, we went out of the city by a riverside, where prayer was wont to be made. And we sat down and spake unto the women which resorted thither.
Mm-hmm.
And a certain woman named Lydia, a seller of purple, of the city of Thyatira, which worshiped God, heard us, whose heart the Lord opened, that she attended unto the things which were spoken of Paul.
Uh-huh.
And when she was baptized in her household, she besought us, saying, If ye have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come into my house and abide there. And she constrained us.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass, as he went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with the spirit of divination.
Nah, so, I'm just showing you, like, what it is. And it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with the spirit of divination. So, like, people can have these demons on them, and they can, like, so when you go, like, and deal with, like, the seance lady or something like that, like, it could be real. And the evidence, like, they might really do. Like, I remember one time, me and a brother of mine, David. You remember David played the trumpet? We had stopped by this magic shop. We were just out chilling. We stopped at this magic shop. It's like an open mall. So you walk past the magic shop, and the magician called you over. So we walk over there or whatever, and he do a trick so real that after that, I was like, I don't ever want to be around this again, because it was real. It's not like, like, it ain't no hand-to-eye trick. Like, he did some old slick stuff, some old, read somebody mind type stuff of a random, like, it wasn't like, it was, trust me, I would know, oh yeah, he was an implant, whatever. Like, nah, it wasn't none of that. Dude had magical skills. And what the Bible is showing us, a certain damsel possessed with the spirit of divination met us, which brought her master much gain by soothsaying. So this woman had skills, and she basically, when they're saying she's soothsaying, like you might come to her and she gonna give you the information. They call that soothsaying. You know what I'm saying? So that's what they was able to do. But I'm just showing you, like, it's real. You know what I'm saying? This ain't something that, everybody's trying to play some trick on you. And what I mean by that, all of it is real. Like the voodoo priest is real. You know what I mean? Like, Satan is real. We're gonna read today that is real. Okay? That's one of the things that I want us to understand, is that witchcraft does exist, and Satan can give it power. It's just like when you go to Revelation chapter, I think 13 or somewhere, maybe 16 or 17 somewhere, but it said that Satan they operated by the power of Satan, or Satan gave power to the beast, or something like that. Like, meaning Satan has power to give. That's what you have to understand. So these things can be real. Now, also the Bible tells us like that the Lord give you power over these things too when you serving God. So it's not like you got to worry about it. I just want you to understand that is real. When I say you don't have to worry about it, because if you serve God, then Satan don't have no dominion over you. Okay? Now, let's go to Matthew chapter 15. Matthew chapter 15. We got some more outside sources to read, so I'm going to try to move through this stuff fairly quick because we got a lot of information, because what we are going to do is look at quite a bit of these different gods and what they brought to the table that dealt with either idolatry and or witchcraft. Like, that's kind of how we're going to do this today. But before we do that, let's look at this Matthew 15 and start reading at verse 4 through, start reading at verse 1 through 9. That's where we're going to take this. Go ahead.
Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread.
So they coming up to Jesus like, man, when your disciples go, it's just like when you go to McDonald's or when you go to Burger King or something, we give you your food in the car, you just start eating, don't you? Yeah. You don't wash your hands, do you? Well, that was their tradition to wash their hands, and they had caught the disciples eating some bread without washing their hands. So they're like, why are you breaking the traditions of the elders? You ain't wash your hands first. So Jesus gonna snap back cold. Go ahead, verse 3.
But he answered and said unto them, Why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? For God commanded, saying, Honor thy father and mother.
Right, so he goes to the commandments, and he like, well, why are you breaking the commandments of God by your traditions? And this is what we do a lot. Our traditions break the commandments of God. Like when we celebrated Halloween yesterday, and I was out there too, not celebrating it. I was actually at the dentist with my daughter, right? And I'm sitting outside most of the time while she getting worked on. And man, I just see all kind of costumes, all kind of cultures of people too. It wasn't just Israel. It was everybody, you know? And it's like we breaking the commandment of God. All these people out here was breaking the commandment of God with what we know as a tradition. Just like going to church on Sunday. That's a tradition. But little do we know we breaking the commandment of God. Or celebrating Easter or Christmas, New Year's, and Valentine's. All these days that come across that has some type of godliness or some type of saint or some type of religious interpretation behind it. These things are breaking the traditions of God. I mean, breaking the commandments of God, and it's our tradition. Verse 4 again.
For God commanded, saying, Honor thy father and mother, and when he that curses father or mother, let him die to death.
Right, so he's saying, look, God had gave a commandment. He say, honor your mother and your father. That comes from the 10 commandments. And whosoever don't do it, they gonna die. Go ahead.
But ye say.
But you make a reason to do what you're doing. Go ahead.
Whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, It is a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me. And honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free.
Go ahead.
Thus have ye made the commandment of God of none effect by your tradition.
So just like how we say, Christmas is for the kids. Like you make an excuse to keep your tradition as opposed to deal with the commandment of God. It's just like going to church on Sunday. You make an excuse to say it's okay to keep going because my grandparents went there, or I don't see what's so wrong with it, or every day's a Sabbath. Whatever excuse you make an excuse to justify your actions instead of saying, hey, I'm going to go and do what the Lord say do instead of being obedient. You don't understand. Keep going. Verse 7.
Ye hypocrites, well did
Isaiah
prophesy of you.
So he said Isaiah spoke about this in Isaiah 29. But what did he say?
This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth.
Right, so we celebrate the Lord, Merry, Christmas, putting Christ in Christmas, or, having the baby with the manger like Jesus, celebrating his birthday or whatever. This people, he say, ye hypocrites, Isaiah prophesied to you, saying this people, they come near me with their mouth. Go ahead.
And honoreth me with their lips.
Yeah.
But their heart is far from me.
Why is their heart far from the Lord?
But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men.
Right, and when it all boiled down to it, that's what it be. It be you teaching doctrine based off the commandment of men and not based off of what God say. Like God give you, like God, it's no God. We're gonna see what God tell you about Easter and all that kind of stuff. We're gonna look at it in an indirect type of way. But let's go to now. We can go ahead and get right into one of our first things that we want to look at, and it's Jeremiah chapter 10. One of the ways that we break the commandments of God by our tradition. Jeremiah chapter 10. And we're going to walk our way through this a little bit. Jeremiah 10 and 1. When you get there, go ahead and read.
Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them.
Go ahead.
For the customs of the people are vain.
What they do?
For one cutteth the tree out of the forest.
So what he's about to start describing is how we celebrate Christmas. So he say, man, some people, they cut a tree out the forest. Go ahead.
The work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with the nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as a palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go.
Right, he's like, you got to create this thing that they decked with silver and gold, that they cut out a tree of the forest. They cut a tree out the forest. You got to create this thing. Go ahead.
Middle of 5. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil. Neither also is it in them to do good. For as much as there is none like unto thee, O Lord, thou art great, and thy name is great in might. Who would not fear thee, O King of nations? For to do thee doth it appertaineth.
Skip down to verse 8.
But they are altogether brutish.
So he's saying it's stupid. Like, and it is. Like, for real. To put a Christmas tree in your house. For what? Honestly. For what? You think about it. I mean, you a man that never celebrate Christmas. What's the purpose of bringing a tree in your house and putting gifts under it? What does that have to do with, like, that's not in the Bible, right? You've been reading the Bible. You've been around for a minute. Have you ever heard us read? You see what is in the Bible about the Christmas tree, right? How they deck it with, like, if you don't learn nothing else, you ain't even mess with Christmas, is you? No. Well, because you seeing that this is breaking the commandment of God by tradition. This is true. I'm going to read you something about Christmas. And this comes from 1995, the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Mythology and Religion and the Unknown. Man, Myth, and Magic. Christmas has its origin in two ancient pagan festivals. The Great Yule Feast of the Norsemen, like the Vikings, and the Roman Saturnalia, extending from the event which begins on the 30th of November or whatever. During Saturnalia, gifts were made by the wealthy to the poor in honor of the golden age of liberty when Saturn ruled the known world. This is where the gifts came from. And let's see what else we can look at. Because I don't want to take up all the time, and we're going to check out quite a bit of information. I'm also looking at, and this is from, I think this is from World Book Encyclopedia. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure which encyclopedia this is. I usually have it labeled. I think this is a World Book, but this is Christmas here again, and it says Christmas is a Christian holiday, and it's not a Christian holiday. But it says the story of Christmas comes chiefly from the Gospel of St. Luke, whatever. The first mention of December 25th as the birth date of Jesus occurred. When that say? Right there.
AD 336.
So not when Jesus was born, but 330. I'm just trying to show you, like, man, like they just be doing stuff. The celebration of this day, the day of Jesus' birthday, was probably influenced by pagan. You see what that say? Pagan. What did it say after pagan?
Unchristian.
Yeah, festivals held at that time. The ancient Romans held year-end celebrations to honor Saturn, the harvest god, and Mithras, the god of lights. So that's somebody else we're gonna learn about too, is Mithras. You know what I'm saying? The god of lights. That's what you're celebrating when you celebrating Christmas. When the soul stone. No, we ain't gotta read that. Yeah, that's good for now. I mean, the reason why Christmas came to be celebrated on December 25th remains uncertain. What are we reading here? This is another Merriam-Webster Encyclopedia of World Religions. And it says the reason why Christmas, and we're reading Christmas here, the reason why Christmas came to be celebrated on December 25th remains uncertain. But most probably early Christians wished the date to coincide with the Roman festivals marking the birth of the unconquered sun, the winter solstice, when the days again began to lengthen. The traditional custom, so what they said, like the days started to lengthen because like the days was getting short, like it's getting short now. Mm-hmm. And so people thought the sun was dying because they don't know no better. They don't have science class like we got science class. You know what I mean? So they just keep seeing the sun going short. It's like, oh, the sun dying. Let's bring it back. The traditional customs connected with Christmas have developed from several sources. In the Roman world, the Saturnalia, December 17th, was the time of the merrymaking and exchanging of gifts. December 25th was also regarded as the birth date of the Iranian god Mithra. On Romans' New Year, January 1st, houses were decorated with greenery and lights, and gifts were given to children and the poor. To these observances were added the Germans and the Celtic Yule rites. So like they just kept adding stuff to it, just kept adding. That's all they kept doing with Christmas until they got what they got now. So when you go back to Jeremiah chapter 10, we see here how it's like verse 4, we just jumping, looking at some of the things. Verse 3, the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth the tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of a workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but they don't speak. They must needs be born because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they can do no evil, neither also is it in to do good. For as much there is none like unto thee, O Lord, thou art great, and thy name is great. Like he's saying, hey, Lord, ain't nobody like you, so we ain't got to worry about them. But read verse 8. Go ahead.
But they are altogether brutish,
stupid,
and foolish.
Yeah.
The stock is a doctrine of vanity.
Uh-huh.
Silver spread into plates is brought from Tarshish, and gold from Uphras. The work of the workman, and of the hands of the founder. Blue and purple is their clothing. They are all the work of cunning men. But the Lord is a true God. He is the living God, and an everlasting King.
Uh-huh.
At his wrath the earth shall tremble, and the nation shall not be able to abide his indignation.
That's good. Now I want to read y'all something else here. And this is from another book that I have. The Two Babylons. The two Babylons are papal worship, provided to be the worship of Nimrod and his wife by the late Reverend Alexander Hislop. And I'm at page 93, and it's about Christmas. It says, within the Christian church, no such festival as Christmas was ever heard of to the 3rd century. And then not till the 4th century was far advanced did it gain much observance. How then did the Roman Church fix on December 25th as Christmas Day? Why thus? Long before the 4th century, and long before Christian era itself, a festival was celebrated among the heathens. At that precise time of the year, in honor of the birth of the son of the Babylonian Queen of Heaven. Skip down. That Christmas was originally a pagan festival is beyond all doubt. The time of the year and the ceremonies with which it is celebrated proved its origin. In Egypt, the son of Isis, the Egyptian title for the Queen of Heaven, was born on that very time, about the time of the winter solstice. The very name by which Christmas is popularly known among ourselves, Yule Day, proves at once its pagan and Babylonian origin. Yule is the Chaldean name for an infant or a little child. So, just again, anywhere you look in any place in history and you begin to research where did Christmas come from, as you see the Bible say it's a custom of the heathens and it's vain, it's brutish. But you look in the history books and it's just telling you Jesus wasn't born on that day. And the customs that you deal with on it, they vain. Let's keep it moving. Let's go to let's go to Isaiah 45, verse 18 through 25. Don't worry, before we're done, we're going to look up Mithra, and so you can check that out a little bit, and might look at Halloween a little bit. We're just going to look at a couple of things, and like I say, try to get some understanding on some of the stuff that we deal with and how it has pagan origins or idolatrous or witchcraft behind it. So Isaiah 45, verse 18 through 25. You can stay, Samuel. If you want to stay and watch, you can sit down and watch. Isaiah 45 and 18 through 25. When you get there, go ahead.
For thus saith the Lord that created the heaven, God himself that formed the earth and made it. He hath established it. He created it not in vain. He formed it to be inhabited. I am the Lord, and there is none else. I have not spoken in secret in a dark place of the heaven, in the dark place of the earth. I said not unto the seed of Jacob, seek ye me in vain. I, the Lord, speak righteousness. I declare things that are right.
Go ahead.
Assemble yourselves and come. Draw near together. Ye that are escaped of the nations, they have no knowledge, that set up the wood of their graven image.
So look what he's telling you. He said, assemble yourselves and come, draw near together, ye that are escaped of the nations. They have no knowledge, that set up the wood of their graven image. Go ahead.
And pray unto a God that cannot save.
Right. And so, like, when you dealing, it's just like when you had them kids and they sit down on Santa's lap, like he can give you something for real. You better hope your mama hear you. Because unless they in the back corner talking about it, he not, Santa Claus ain't even real. But go ahead.
Tell ye, and bring them near. Yea, let them take counsel together, who have declared this from ancient time. Who have told it from that time. Have not I the Lord? And there is no God else beside me.
Right, the Lord is saying, ain't no other gods beside me. Like, if you need information, you got to get it from the Lord. And that be the problem. That's what we're going to learn. That people couldn't get information from the Lord. So with that being said, they had to go seek outside sources. And that's where all this, and I'm going to give you, we're going to look at an example of this very shortly. Matter of fact, let's go over to 1 Samuel chapter 28. 1 Samuel chapter 28. 1 Samuel chapter 28. And we're going to look at an example of how people, or why you start going somewhere else, because the Lord ain't trying to listen to you. The Lord ain't responding, so all of a sudden, you like, why would you go to a psychic lady if you can go to Jesus, right? You would just go to Jesus. You would, I mean, the whole world, get on your knees and pray, and the Lord will answer your question, but you wouldn't be going nowhere, because it costs money. Anytime, so you'd be like, sure, let me just get on my knees and pray. But that's the thing. The Lord not answering these men. And like we saw before, when we first opened up this class, we opened up with the Lord established Levi. He established a priesthood. So ain't no other priesthood supposed to exist. The priest supposed to be your advocate between God or the supernatural and man. So that means your witches is not supposed to be the advocate. Like the necromancer, nobody. Nobody's supposed to be the advocate, but that's what happened. You start going to other forms of gods, just like the origin of Christmas. Christmas is about you trying to get your son back. But had you S-U-N, but had you talked to the Lord, he would have told you the son ain't going nowhere. It'll be back. This is what's gonna happen. If you was trying to get your understanding from the Lord, but since we couldn't, then we had to come up with our own way to try to do it. Rain dances, things of that nature. Don't rain. Oh, make a rain dance. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, you take it to the Lord. But man can't. And I'm going to show you an example of this. So, 1 Samuel, right? Mm-hmm. Chapter, what I say, 28? Mm-hmm. Pick it up at verse 1.
And it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare, to fight with Israel. And Archish.
There's no R in that.
And
what do it say?
Or Achish.
There you go.
Oh, my fault. Achish said unto David, know thou assuredly that thou shalt go out with me to battle, thou and thy men. And David said unto Archish.
Why you keep putting the R in there?
Oh, Achish. Oh, no, sorry.
Achish.
Achish.
No T either.
Achish.
Mm-hmm.
Surely thou shalt know that thy servant can do. And Achish.
Bruh.
Achish.
Thank you.
Said to David, therefore will I make thee keeper of my head forever.
Keep reading.
Now Samuel was dead.
All right, now this is where it really started. We could have started at verse 3, but it said, now Samuel was dead. Now, I'm just going to ask you. Now, Sean, can dead people talk? You ever talk to a dead person?
Nah.
Dead person ever talk to you?
I hope not.
If you saw a dead person, then would it be real?
Mm-mm.
Like if you saw, like, look up there. Who's that? Uncle D? Yeah. All them people up there dead, right? Mm-hmm. All right. You seen any of them short them pictures? Mm-hmm. Like, would you believe that's really them? Right. So you would know that that's not them. Because why?
Because you're dead.
Exactly. So that's the first thing it's establishing. And when we say we would know it's not them, we could go back to everybody that I know that done died. We can either find your ashes somewhere because people done got burned. You know, like my people done got burned, like my Uncle Herman. You know what I'm saying? They cremated him, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, you got I think they end up cremating Uncle D, if I ain't mistaken, and people got pieces of his ashes or somebody, I don't know. But the long story short is, so if somebody was to come from the grave, I mean, that body got to be gone. Otherwise, you dig what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's just like, you know, if my daddy came back. If my daddy walked in the room right now, then his body can't be in Michigan, where we buried him. You dig what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. All right. So you keep that in mind. Otherwise, if his body's still in Michigan in the grave, then that ain't him. You follow what we said?
Yeah.
That could be some type of evil angel acting like him, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Because they got skills. They can do that. Evil angels, we're going to learn that. So go ahead. Let's keep reading. Remember, we saw a lady was possessed earlier in the lesson, right? Mm-hmm. So that means that Satan can intervene and make stuff happen. All right? Now, go ahead. 28 and 3.
Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented him and buried him in Ramon, or
Ramon.
Yeah, Ramon. Even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that had familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land.
So Saul, what he did, and it's telling you a lot right here. Now Samuel was dead. All Israel had lamented and buried him. So it means his body is somewhere, you know? That's how they know. And then it said, and Saul had put away everybody that had familiar spirits, that was dealing with any wizards, witchcraft, any of that. Verse 4.
And the Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel together, and they pitched in Gilboa. And when Saul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. And when Saul inquired of the Lord answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophet.
So now you see what's going on. Saul is trying to talk to God, but God don't want to talk to him. And I remember I was saying that the reason why we got a lot of this idolatry and paganism and stuff is because you trying to reach out to God for your answers. He don't want to talk to you, so you got to figure out another way. You know what I'm saying? Just that, why would you have to go to a diviner who doing divinations? Mm-hmm. You know, the psychic lady or the crystal ball or whatever. Why I got to do that if I can just go to God? It's freer that way. Verse 7.
Then said Saul unto his servants, seek me a woman that hath the familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said unto him, behold, there is a woman that hath a familiar spirit.
So notice what's going on. And this is how you know stuff be slick too. Because he was like, seek somebody. It was like, seek somebody that got a familiar spirit. But you know you got rid of everybody. But you know how it operate. You know that people done crept through the cracks. Then it says Saul to his servant, seek me a woman that have a familiar spirit, like the lady we saw in the book of Acts, that I might go to her so she could soothe me. Mm-hmm. Dig what I'm saying? Get paid too. We saw that. Behold, there is a woman that have a familiar spirit at Endor, which is kind of dope because that's one of the Star Wars cities, but I digress. Go ahead.
And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men with him.
So he couldn't dress like the king. So Saul had to put on something else. Go ahead.
And they came to
because the king had killed everybody. But go ahead.
And they came to the woman by night, and he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee.
Now remember, he can't get no answer from God. He said, divine unto me the familiar spirit. Like he know what he doing. he basically asking the devil to tell him. And who I ask you to talk to, I need to talk to him. Go ahead.
And the woman said unto him, Behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that have familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life, to cause me to die?
Go ahead.
And Saul sware to her by the Lord, saying, As the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing.
Go ahead.
Then said the woman, Who shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, Bring me up Samuel.
I you know what's crazy about this? Saul could be just reprobate. But if he in his right mind, just looking at how it's written and stuff, man, he knew this wasn't never gonna be Samuel. You know what I'm saying? He just know y'all got the skill to do it. That's all he know. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But he know where Samuel is. But go ahead, verse 12.
And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice. And the woman spake to Saul, saying, Why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul.
Yeah.
And the king said unto her, Be not afraid.
He like, man, we ain't got time to talk about that. Go ahead.
For what sawest thou?
He like, what you see, though?
And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth.
Nah, when it says she saw gods descending out of the earth, you know what she looking at?
What?
Spirits. That's what she looking at. Spirits. Angels. Mm-hmm. Good or evil. Probably evil angels. And she can still call them gods. You know what I'm saying? It's the Most High God. But what she's not seeing is nothing. She's seeing something. But she's seeing spirits. That's why she said, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. And then look what it say in my Bible. What it'll say right there?
Spirits.
Right. That's what she saw. But go ahead. Keep reading. I didn't even peep that at first. But go ahead.
And he said unto her, What form is he of? And she said, An old man cometh up, and he is covered with the mantle.
Now he had already said, Bring me Samuel. These evil angels know what Samuel looked like. Go ahead.
And Saul perceived that it was Samuel.
And he perceived. It never said, and Samuel returned. Because Samuel's still in the grave at this very moment. When Samuel resurrects, he's not going to remember this happened. Because it didn't happen to him. Samuel never came out of the grave. You understand what I'm saying? You got to come out the grave to come back. That's what you, like, it's like the resurrection is that. You have to resurrect out the grave. So once you dead, you either dead or you resurrected. Go ahead.
And he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed himself. And Samuel said to Saul, Why hast thou
why you bothering me? Mm-hmm.
To bring me up? And Saul answered, I am sore distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and God is departed from me. And
notice again how he's saying, but God is departed. This is the whole key of what we dealing with. When God don't deal with you, you go and deal with some other means to function with God. That be the problem. You find some other way, whether it's witchcraft or even with even the origin of these holidays, like how you got a fertility god. See, we look at the Easter on the outside looking in like, oh yeah, it's Easter bunnies, go to church, whatever. No, it was about fertility. It was about having babies. And you seeking that God. What verse?
15, or middle 15.
Go ahead.
I am sore distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and God is departed from me, and answer me no more, neither by prophets nor by dreams. Therefore I have called thee, that thou mayest make known unto me what I shall do.
What else?
Then said Samuel, Wherefore then doest thou ask of me, seeing the Lord is departed from thee, and is become thine enemy?
Why you asking me, seeing that the Lord then departed from you and became your enemy? Go ahead.
And the Lord have done to him as he spake by me. For the Lord have rent the kingdom out of thy hand, and given it to thy neighbor, even to David.
All right, that's good. That's good. So, just looking at that story, what can you read?
Because thou obeyest not the Lord, not the voice of the Lord, nor executed his fierce wrath upon Amalek. Therefore have the Lord done this thing unto thee this day. Moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with thee into the hand of the Philistines, and tomorrow shalt thou and thy sons be with me. The Lord also shall deliver the host of Israel into the hand of the Philistines.
So basically what he told him is, thanks for calling me back, but you're going to die. You know what I'm saying? That's why he said you're going to be with me, because he dead. Let's go to Psalm 135. Psalm 135. Psalm 135. We still got a little more information. Not going to take much more time. These burning midnight oils be quick. Lord willing, we'll return again Friday night with we can do all things through Christ, something like that. We're going to try to deal with that. Christ make it happen. You can't serve God without him. But at any rate, that's crazy. Psalm 135 and verse 14 through 21. Psalm 135 verse 14 through 21. And when you get there, go ahead.
For the Lord will judge his people, and he will repent himself concerning his servant. The idols of the heathen are silver and gold.
Yeah.
The work of men's hands.
Yeah.
They have mouths, but they speak not.
Right.
Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not.
Yep.
Neither is there any breath in their mouth.
Right.
They that make them are like unto them. So is everyone that trusted in them.
So he's saying they that make them are like unto them, because they do nothing. They have no skill, no power, no ability to save, heal, nothing. So he said those that make them and bow down to them, you like them. He says they have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Neither is there any breath in their mouths. They that make them are like unto them, dead. So is everyone that trusts in them, dead. You walking in the congregation of the dead. Go ahead.
Bless the Lord, O house of Israel. Bless the Lord, O house of Aaron.
Yep.
Bless the Lord, O house of Levi.
Right.
Ye that fear the Lord, bless the Lord.
Go ahead.
Blessed be the Lord out of Zion, which dwelleth at Jerusalem. Praise ye the Lord.
That's good. Let's go to 1 King now. 1 King chapter 18. 1 King chapter 18. And let's pick this up at verse 20. 1 King chapter 18 and verse 20. When you get there, go ahead and read.
So Ahab sent unto all the children of Israel, and gathered the prophets together unto Mount Carmel.
Yep.
And Elijah came unto all the people, and said, How long have ye between two opinions?
Yep.
If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal or Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word.
Now, what we getting at here is we're going to have Elijah going to put it to the test. What we just read. He was like, they ain't got no skills. They can't do nothing. He said, those that are like unto him, those that make them are like them, right? All right, go ahead.
Then said Elijah unto the people, I, even I only, remain a prophet of the Lord. But Baal's prophets are 450 men.
So he says, one of me, 450 of y'all. You know what I'm saying? Because it's always the majority be wrong. And it be like that, too. It's just like in this city. How many people was at church the past week? What, 50? How many people was in the city, though? Or how many people that's going to be in church the next day? Probably 1 million. That's a big... Okay, so let's not say 1 million. 500,000. That's 500,000 to 50, because we got, 5 million people in this metro. You know what I'm saying? So it's probably going to be a good 500,000 people at church on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? But it's 50 that was there with us. So that's what he said. Then said Elijah unto the people, I, even I, remain a prophet of the Lord, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Go ahead.
Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and I cut it in pieces.
And cut it in pieces. Go ahead.
And lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And call ye on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord. And the God that answereth by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, It is well spoken.
Go ahead.
And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal, Choose you 1 bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for ye are many, and call on the name of your gods, but put no fire under. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called one the name of Baal from morning even unto noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leaped upon the altar which was made.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, "Cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth, and must be awakened."
So Elijah was like, cry loud, man. Because what we getting at right here is like, we can prove, like at the end of the day, God gonna prove his. It's just like when you go to New Year's, right? And you go to the New Year's service at these churches. Ain't no telling what you might hear. Every church might be different on New Year's Eve or whatever when they go to church. Most churches do that. Watch night. That's what they call it, watch night. Whereas when we have Passover, unleavened bread, always the same thing. Use always the same message. You know what I'm saying? Each one of the feast days, they don't change in our world. What I'm getting at is the Lord is proving you. Like he's going to prove your mind can stand. You get to talking about the Lord days, and you get to talking about the way the Bible operates, and it has purpose and meanings. Then when you start talking about, what they're telling you from a Sunday church perspective of what the world is offering you, like, for example, what does Christmas mean? What does Thanksgiving mean? You know what I'm saying? Thanksgiving is what? When we as pilgrims, I guess, took Plymouth Rock from the Indians or something. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I guess the natives.
Yeah, it took, like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm saying, but what else? You know what I mean? Like, what else is there to that? Yet now everybody is thankful to God for Thanksgiving. And it's like, oh yeah, well, ain't nothing wrong with doing that, man. But the Lord is giving you days to honor. That's the point. God has given you days. But go ahead, keep reading. What verse?
28.
Mm-hmm.
And they cried aloud and cut themselves.
So here in this story, it was like Elijah was like, all right, so go find your God so he could prove himself. He might be on a long journey. He might cry loud for him. Maybe he talking to somebody, you know what I'm saying, whatever. So they cried aloud, cut themselves after the manner with knives and lancets till the blood gushed out upon them. And it came to pass when midday was past, and they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice, nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. Go ahead, verse 30.
And Elijah said unto all the people, "Come near unto me." And all the people came near to him. And he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down.
Go ahead.
And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came.
And I love how these prophets be operating like Elijah took 12 stones, according to the tribes of Jacob. Like, it's just like, I remember, me and brother Elijah, my teacher, we cast a lot about different issues, and how it was like, yo, we're going to put 12 yays, 12 no's, whatever. I just like how, there's according to the tribes of Israel, there's some rhyme to the reason, you know what I mean? It's not just random. But go ahead, keep reading.
Come saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench about the altar, as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order, and cut the bullock in pieces, and laid him on the wood, and said, Fill 4 barrels of water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice, and on the wood. And he said, Do it the second time.
So look, now the first time, he had put their stuff down, they bullock out there. And he was like, let it burn up. Now he got his. He started putting water on it. You know what I mean? He trying to make the task more difficult. Go ahead.
And he said,
on himself, though.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do it the second time. And they did it the second time.
So they drenching this joint.
And he said, Do it the third time. And they did it the third time.
Right.
And the water ran round about the altar.
Right. So they filling it up. Go ahead.
And he filled the trench also with water. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice.
So from noon to evening, go ahead.
That Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again.
Go ahead.
Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, The Lord, he is the God. The Lord, he is the God.
Keep reading.
And Elijah said unto them, take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook of Kishon, and slew them there.
I just want you to know that at the end of the day, he killed all them 400 or whatever it was prophets that was putting on like that. Let's keep it moving. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 23. We got 2 more after this, but we do got a little more. Got a little more extra reading we're gonna do. But we're gonna go to 2 Kings chapter 23, and we're gonna look at King Josiah. And when we go to King Josiah here, when we do this, we're gonna look at a lot of gods, and we're gonna look some of them up. You know what I mean? So we can see what these gods are that they was dealing with. 2 Kings chapter 23, and start reading in verse 4. When you get there, go ahead and read.
And the king commanded
Come on, Josiah, but go ahead.
Hilkiah, the high priest, and the priests of the second order, and the keepers of the door, to bring forth out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal, and for the grove, and for all the hosts of heaven. And he burnt them without Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron, and carried the ashes of them unto Bethel. And he put down the idolatrous priest. Idolatrous priest.
Right, because that's what again, God set up priests already. So the idolatrous priest was like everybody that was heading up whatever weight, whether it was witchcraft, whether it was a false church, whether, the idolatrous priests, like they be having priests for their stuff. Like, I don't know if you watch a lot of them Greek movies, but in a lot of the Greek movies, quite often they might have like women priestess, and the king might go to go see the priest. You know what I'm saying? But at any rate, they have priests for all their gods. So Baal got a god, got a priest. Go ahead.
Who the kings of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Judah, and in the places round about Jerusalem. Them also that burnt incense unto Baal, to the sun, and to the moon, and to the planets, and to all the hosts of heaven. And he brought out the grove from the house of the Lord without Jerusalem unto the brook Kidron, and burnt it at the brook Kidron, and stumped at small to powder, and cast the powder thereof upon the graves of the children of the people.
I could tell it's something you ain't read before. Go ahead, take your time with it.
And he brake down the houses of the Sodomites.
Now this one really got me. So he was like, so Josiah was breaking down the houses of the Sodomites, the homosexuals. Go ahead.
That were by the house of the Lord.
Yeah, so I guess they had to set up gay houses, Nick, And when you say the houses of the Sodomites, I don't know, what probably was like prostitution houses with gay men. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
Where the women rove hanging for the grove.
And then they had like idols, like the women would make idols for these gay men. Like, that's so nasty. But go ahead.
And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah, and defiled the high priest where the priests had burnt incense, from Geba to Beersheba, and break down the high priest
high places of the gates that were entering into the gate of Joshua, the governor's city, where on a man's left hand at the gate of the city. Go ahead, verse 9.
Nevertheless, the priests of the high places came not up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they did eat of the unleavened bread among their brothers.
Go ahead.
And he defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of the children of Hinnon, that no man might make his son or his daughter to pass through the fire
of
to
Molech. Go ahead.
And he took away the horses that the king of Judah had given to the son.
So, like, the king of Judah had given... Now, this is all... Josiah is fixing everything. So, the king of Judah had been giving horses to the S-U-N, to the son. Like, this is them... And really, we talking Mithra. And we going... Matter of fact, let's look up this Mithra real quick. Because we saw some other stuff about Mithra before. You can keep reading now. Go ahead, read a little more.
And he took away the horses that the king of Judah had given to the son.
That was the name of the sun god that we still worship. So Mithra is the god that they thought had died and was coming back to life around Christmas time or after Christmas that we had read about a little earlier, right? And they mentioned Mithra and I'm gonna read. I'm in the Encyclopedia Britannica again, and I'm gonna read Mithra. Mithraism. I don't want to read all that. I just want to read Mithra. Well, Mithraism, the worship of Mithra, the Iranian god of the sun. That's what Mithraism is. But Mithra is in the pantheon of Vedic Hinduism, one of the gods of the category of somebody or sovereignty principles of the universe. His represents friendship, integrity, harmony, and all else that is important in the successful maintaining of orders in human existence. This is Mithra now. He is usually paired with the god Varanu. This is the sun god, the guardian of the cosmic order. You know what? I got another book we can read this from, a better one. So we're going to read this one out of the Encyclopedia of the Gods. And we're going to look up Mithra here. Let's see what it says about Mithra here. This is a better book to look it up at. Mithra. How you spell it? M-I, right? Mm-hmm. So let's see what it says in here. Mithra. And this is Encyclopedia of the Gods, published by Jordan Publishing House. Michael Jordan was the publisher, huh? All right, Mithra. Mithra. It says origin, Persian, Iranian, god of the upper air. Mithra. In Hindu, Mithras. In Roman, throughout areas of Persian, whatever. Originating in India, Mithra is a god of light who was translated into the attendant of the god Asur Mazda in the light religion of Persia. From this, he was adopted as the Roman deity, Mithras. He is not generally regarded as a sky god, but a personification of fertilizing power of warm, light air. According to Avesta, he possessed 10,000 eyes and ears and rides in a chariot drawn by white horses. So this is where Mithra come from. He the god of the soldiers or whatever, but he the sun god, Mithra, minor sun god. Like this is who Mithra is. So when they was worshiping the sun god, and this is what Christmas is about. You worshiping Mithra. That's the sun god. That's why when you go to Ezekiel chapter 8, it say they was worshiping the sun. So when you deal with the sun god, that's one of the the rituals and stuff that come with what we do come from how they the people in Iran dealt with Mithra. What verse are we at though?
11.
All right, go ahead.
And he took away the horses that the kings of Judah had given to the sun at the entering in the house of the Lord by the chamber of Nathan Melech, the chamberlain, which was in the suburbs, and burnt the chariots of the sun with fire.
Go ahead.
And the altars that were on the top of the upper chamber of Ahaz.
Go ahead.
Which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord, did the king beat down, and break them down from thence, and cast the dust of them into the brook Kidron. And the high places that were before Jerusalem, which were on the right hand of the Mount of Corruption, which Solomon the king of Israel had built it for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Zidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Malcolm, the abomination of the children of Ammon.
All right, so we're going to look up Ashtoreth real quick. And Ashtoreth is really where we get Easter from. But it says Ashtoreth, the fertility goddess, Western Shemitic, goddess of the sheep herders, equating with the Phoenician god Estera, also plural form name for Ashtoreth. All these are the same god. Predominantly, let me see what else. The goddess of the evening star, of war, and of sexual love. Inscriptions from the 5th century BC in her major temple at Sidon suggest she was perceived as something of Baal, somebody, I don't know, personifying his divine power. She is also his consort. So Ashtoreth is the fertility god. All right. And then let's look at some more about Ashtoreth. This is the fertility god. And now I'm going to the two Babylons again. And I'm looking up Easter, page 103. It says, then look at Easter. What means the term Easter itself? It is not a Christian name. It bears its Chaldean origin on its very forehead. Easter is nothing else than Ashtoreth, one of the titles of the Queen of Heaven, whose name, as pronounced by the people of Nineveh, was evidently identical with that now in common use in this country. That name, as found by Layard on the Assyrian monuments, is Ishtoreth, spelled Ishtar. The worship of Baal and Ashtoreth was very early introduced into Britain along with the Druids, the priests of the groves. Some have imagined that the Druidical worship was the first introduced by the Phoenicians, who centuries before the Christian era traded. So anyway, he's just telling you how the Druids ended up getting to it. But at the end of the day, this Ashtoreth is the Easter god. So long story short, Josiah coming in here and he destroying all these different guys we still dealing with though. The sun god, the Ashtoreth. Go ahead, keep reading. What else? Verse 14.
And he brake in pieces the images, and cut down the groves, and filled their places with the bones of men. Moreover, the altar that was at Bethel, and the high place which Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, had made, both that altar and the high place he brake down, and burnt the high place, and stumped it small to powder, and burnt the grove.
Go ahead.
And as Josiah turned himself, he spied the sepulchres that were there in the mount, and sent and took the bones out of the sepulchres, and burnt them upon the altar, and polluted it.
So he like burning up their altars, and like he burning the bodies on their altars and everything. Like he ain't have no mercy. He like, I don't want no remnants of none of this idolatry. Go ahead.
According to the word of the Lord, which the man of God proclaimed, who proclaimed these words.
Do you know who this man of God is? You ever remember that story about that dude? And he was told, don't go nowhere, but just go like straight back where you came from. And he didn't, because some prophets had told him like, yo, come over here and eat with us. The Lord said so, but the Lord didn't tell him. And so he ended up eaten by some bears. You ever heard? Some lions or bears or something like that. You ever heard that story?
I think so.
Yeah, you have. I'm probably paraphrasing it halfway decent. But he was called the man of God there. He had a prophecy, and this was the prophecy. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? He prophesied about what Josiah is doing. So Josiah come around, and he like, man, he said, and Josiah turned himself, and he spied the sepulchres that were there in the mount, and sent and took the bones out of the sepulchres and burned them upon the altar and polluted it, according to the words of the Lord, which the man of God proclaimed, who proclaimed these words. Then he said, what title was this that I see? And the men of the city told him, it is the sepulchre of the man of God. So they running up on his sepulchre, which came from Judah, and proclaimed these things thou hast done against the altar of Bethel. Like he said, you was going to do all this. So what did he say? Go ahead.
And he said, let him alone. Let no man move his bones. So they let his bones alone, with the bones of the prophet that came out of Samaria. And all the houses, also the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which the kings of Israel had made to provoke the Lord to anger, Josiah took away, and did to them according to all the acts that he had done in Bethel.
Go ahead.
And he slew all the priests of the high places that were there upon the altars, and burned men's bones upon them, and returned to Jerusalem.
So the king was killing everything that wasn't serving God, really. Go ahead.
And the king commanded all the people, saying, keep the Passover unto the Lord your God, as it is written in the book of this covenant.
But you see where he owned, though. Right after that, he like, but keep the Passover. Like, we need to, it ain't so much destroy what you doing. That's what you're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? But then you need to be keeping the commandments of God. Keep going.
Surely there was not holden such a Passover from the days of the judges that judged Israel, nor in all the days of the kings of Israel, nor of the kings of Judah.
Go ahead.
But in the 18th year of King Josiah, wherein this Passover was holden to the Lord in Jerusalem. Moreover, the workers with familiar spirits, and the wizards, and the images, and the idols, and all the abominations that were spied in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem, did Josiah put away, that he might perform the words of the law which were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord.
What he found? Go ahead.
And like unto him was there no king before him.
Well, and what he found was, well, go ahead, keep reading.
That turned to the Lord with all his heart, and with all his soul, and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses. Neither after him arose there any like him.
Go ahead.
Notwithstanding, the Lord turned not from the fierceness of his great wrath, wherewith his anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocations.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So at the end of the day, we see Josiah ran through there. He was killing all the graves, the idols, like Christmas. He killed that. He killed the Easter god. Then he turned around and killed the witches and stuff, and had them serve God. Like, this is what you got to do in you. You know what I'm saying? You got to kill the idolatry in you and then turn around and serve God. You know what I mean? Just that simple. Let's keep it moving. I had some more stuff we was going to read on Easter, on Halloween, but we don't even need to read that. Everybody know Halloween pagan. You know what I'm saying? Like, witches and goblins and vampires and all that, but we was going to read some stuff on that. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 20. We're going to read Leviticus 20, and then we're going to wrap it up in 1 Corinthians 10. Leviticus chapter 20. And again, I want you to understand that what we do here is, we're really trying to set a foundation for your learning. See, if you believe this and you know this, then we just read more information, more stories. You got your little Bible study in. You got to read some book today. But if you don't know this, then you need to take the time and go and find out about all these different things that you do. I'm here to tell you, all the holidays on the Gregorian calendar, check them all out. St. Valentine's Day. What is it? New Year's. That's the goddess Janus, the two-faced god. And what's the next month? February, St. Valentine's Day. Check that one out. And what's the next month? March, St. Patrick's Day. Check that out. So all this stuff, they make the kids wear green. They be wearing green to work and stuff. Baseball, Major League Baseball, be rocking out with the green, whatever, right? Basketball, whatever. Then what's next? Easter. Check that one out. Give you a little break. May, June. I can't think of none really. Don't really too much come back till you get back to the end. Same with the Lord though. If you pay the Lord any attention, He got feasts at the beginning of the year, really at the end of the year, something like that. Then, next thing check that Thanksgiving out. Father's Days, Mother's Days, stuff like that. All that stuff. All these things man done gave you. Go check them out. See if this is what you need to be doing. See if you serving God. Or like it say in Matthew chapter 15, where have you broken the commandments of God? By your traditions. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you ain't breaking God's commandments by keeping your traditions. So anyway, Leviticus chapter 20 started at verse 1.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Again thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff deal with Halloween too, so you can go check that out. Like I said, I got plenty of books. We was gonna look at some stuff on Halloween, but man, first of all, Halloween over with. That was yesterday, but really at the end of the day, ain't nobody really question. If you questioning whether Halloween is idolatrous, you got a long way to go. We keep reading.
The people of the land shall stone him with stones.
Uh-huh.
And I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from among his people, because he had given of his seed unto Molech, to defile my sanctuary, and to profane my holy name.
Go ahead.
And if the people of the land do anyways hide their eyes from the man, when he giveth of his seed unto Molech, and kill him not, then I will set my face against that man, and against his family, and will cut him off, and all that go a whoring after him, to commit whoredom with Molech from among their people. And the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits, and after wizards, to go whoring after them.
They were sacrificing their children to this God. That's crazy. He said that the people of the land do anyways hide their eyes from the man when he giveth his seed unto Molech and kill him not. Then will I set my face against that man and against his family and will cut him off. So you ain't supposed to bear witness to this. And we got a big problem with that. we'll bear witness to something. It might as well just be doing it with them. And the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits. So again, we coming back to that. And after wizards to go whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul and will cut him off from among his people. Verse 7.
Sanctify yourselves, therefore, and be ye holy, for I am the Lord your God. And ye shall keep my statutes and do them. I am the Lord which sanctify you.
So at the end of the day, the Lord telling us we're supposed to sanctify ourselves. And we're not doing that. We're not setting ourselves apart from the rest of the world and the things of what they partaking in. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. This is our last one. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, we're going to read 14 through 22, 25 through 31. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 14 through 22. When you get there, go ahead and read.
Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry.
Right. This is what he's telling you. Flee idolatry. Like all that stuff. Like all all the witchcraft. And then too, like some of this music, man, it be idolatrous. Some of these shows we watch on TV, all this homosexuality and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff, man. Flee that stuff. Flee that stuff, man. He said, wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. Go ahead.
I speak as the wise man. Judge ye what I say.
Yep.
The cup of blessing which we bless, is it not the communion of the blood of Christ? The bread which we break, is it not the communion of the body of Christ?
So what Paul is saying, like, man, we deal with the Lord. Like how we take the Passover right there for the Lord, the atonement, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For we being many are one bread, and one body. For we are all partakers of that one bread.
Yep.
Behold, Israel, after the flesh, are not they which eat of the sacrifices partakers of the altar?
Like the Levites, they ate of the sacrifices that came on the altar. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
What say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols and is anything?
Right, he like, man, the idol ain't nothing. We read that already. And what you sacrifice to the idol ain't nothing. Like I knew a brother, he was sacrificing, his wife was sacrificing to Buddha in their basement. And man, the lady was bringing the Buddha food. That man was so pissed how many rats and mice and stuff he was having because the Buddha wasn't eating it. Because the Buddha can't eat it. There's nothing that these idols can do. Go ahead. Verse 20, right? Go ahead.
But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice.
Right, but the things that the Greeks done gave us, like the stuff that we got in our society. Go ahead.
They sacrifice to devils.
Right, they sacrifice to devils. Go ahead.
And not to God.
Like all they worship is worship to devils, not to God. If it was to God, it'd be called tabernacle. You know what I'm saying? Like if it was to God, it wouldn't be no 8-point stars and all that crazy crap. I read some of that today too. We just didn't get into all of it. You know what I'm saying? But it wouldn't be all these pagan symbols, crosses, and all that kind of stuff. Like why? Like that stuff. It wouldn't be no doves. You don't see that. Fishes. The Lord said, "Don't make these images." But go ahead, keep reading.
And I will not that ye should have fellowship with devils.
And he's saying, "Don't deal with Satan. Don't deal with their stuff." And go ahead.
Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of the devil.
Read that again.
Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of the devil.
Right.
Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of the devil.
Why?
Do we provoke the Lord to jealousy?
That's what we're going to be doing if we're going to be dealing with what man gave us. 25.
Whatsoever is sold in the shambles, that eat, asking no question for conscience sake.
Conscience.
Or conscience sake.
Do you know what the shambles is?
No.
That's the meat market.
Oh.
So whatever sold at, what's our store? ShopRite, right? You can eat it. As long as it's clean, right? We ain't worrying about if the butcher back there singing songs to the god of meat, right? You know what I'm saying? Because really it don't matter what he's singing songs to. The god of meat don't matter. But go ahead.
For the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. If any of them that believe not abide you to a feast.
If any of them that believe not bid you to a feast, and you be disposed to go, whatsoever set before you eat, asking no question for conscience sake. Go ahead.
But if any man...
So somebody asks you for dinner, Like, it don't even matter. Like, you know, he Asian and he been back there giving to the God a Confucianism or something. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter. His God don't have no effect on your food. Go ahead.
But if any man say unto you, this is offered in sacrifice unto idols.
But if a man say, bro, I cooked this for my God, go ahead.
Eat not.
Right, like if he told you this. It'd be one thing if like I said, we don't know what the butcher doing at the meat market. You know what I'm saying? He could be back there chatting before he make every cut. Doesn't matter. But if they telling you like, bro, we make this for our God, don't eat that. Why?
Eat not for his sake that showed it, and for conscience sake.
Right.
For the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof.
Right. He said really it's for the conscience sake, for they thinking, not because the food can do anything to you. Go ahead.
Conscience, I say, not thine own, but of the other. For why is my liberty judged of another man's conscience?
Mm-hmm.
For if I by grace be a partaker, why am I evil spoken of for that for which I give thanks?
Go ahead.
Whether therefore ye eat or drink or whatsoever ye do all to the glory of God.
All right, so that's good. So look, the last part there, at the end of the day, like with these holidays and stuff, like you not doing it because it hurts you or it can affect you. You're not doing it. You know, you're not participating in the Christmas grab bag, or you're not doing the Thanksgiving dinner at the job with them.
So,
go ahead.
So you know how like at school they be giving out like candy canes? So don't take that because we know it's for Christmas.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, cause like we participating in that now. You know what I'm saying? We just wait till after Christmas, then we get the peppermints. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, they giving out Christmas gifts. We not taking them, but it's not about the gift itself. It's about the person who gave it to you and what they're doing and what you represent to them, and that's what he getting at. Mm-hmm. Just like he was saying, the meat, like they could be back there, you know, singing, you know, I love Satan songs at every cut, right? Mm-hmm. But it's still gonna be, you know, steak. Now, if they walk out here and be like, yeah, you know, I mean, here's a porterhouse dedicated to Lucifer, I'd be like, bro, keep that. But not because you dedicated to Lucifer, but because you did it. You dig what I'm saying? Not because Lucifer got something to do with this steak. And that's what it's all about. When you start dealing with people, it's not because they God has, like the Christmas tree, and they like, I walk in somebody's house and it's a Christmas tree. That Christmas tree can't do nothing to me. You know what I'm saying? It's just a tree. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? It's like the candy on Halloween. It don't have no power. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, though, it's about the people that's dealing with it. And you want to make sure that you ain't giving them no reason to feel like it's okay to do what they doing. So, brothers and sisters, I hope we learned a little bit more. Like I say, here at Burning Midnight Oil, we typically just touching the surface, trying to give you enough material so that you can go and do your homework and your walk of salvation, so that you can challenge your mind on the things that you need to challenge so you can continue to learn. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, I hope y'all got some understanding in Jesus' name. And I'm going to leave you what I always leave you with. One man plants, another man waters, but it's the Lord that get an increase. And I thank you for your time. Peace.
Right, everyday hell, I'm just trying to show eternal life. I'm just trying to show eternal life. This burning all at midnight. Who shall teach knowledge, make them understand doctrine? Who shall teach knowledge, make them understand doctrine? Who shall teach knowledge, make them understand doctrine? Line upon line, line upon line. Who shall teach knowledge, make them understand doctrine? Who shall teach knowledge, make them understand doctrine? Who shall teach knowledge, make them understand doctrine? Line upon line, make them understand doctrine. Open script and I'ma read it right. Study to show thyself approved. You got to read it right. Everyday hell, I'm just trying to show eternal